Shalom, shalom. This is Brother Shia.
This is
And to my left, good.
Mayaka Allah.
Mike Allah. Before we begin, we want to make an announcement. For tomorrow, November 28th, is going to be the National Unity Prayer Day, which starts at noon. It's for forgiveness of sins and other petitions to the Most High. This prayer is regardless of camp affiliation or doctrine. It is to unify Israel and to make a petition to the Most High because of the conditions and the coming time change that's happening. The link to that is Yahworld 777. Yahworld 777. And that's tomorrow at 12 noon. The next new moon that we'll be doing at the House of David is Saturday, December 4th. Some of you may have different dates, but like Paul said, let every man be convinced in his own mind. We won't argue over things like that. That's not in your salvation. Also, Hanukkah, we'll be celebrating on December the 28th. And with that, I want to go into a few scriptures. I'm going to chop this up a bit. We're going to do different segments of information. But what I want to get into now, in light of what's been taking place, at least the third or fourth time, what was the guy's name? It has the info right there. You could pull that. What's that guy's name?
Darrell Brooks.
Darrell Brooks, right? What happened with that whole incident with the driving and running into the crowd and whatever the case is. What happens now is because what's happening is the people or the powers that be, as a whole, don't have anything on Israelites. There's no real accusation you can make. You can make accusations about racism. You can make accusations about anti-Semitism, but there's nothing concrete that you can really grab hold on to, because even when we speak, we may say different things, or we don't come off the same when we're in the streets. So in order to do something, they have to create a situation. So you have someone like Darrell, who may have read something Israelites said, who may have read the Bible, because that is the basis of Israelites. Right. He may have read something. So now that he's black, he is associated with Israelites, just like Christianity is associated with the Bible, but it really doesn't belong there. Same thing with Darrell. He might be associated because he read something. It has nothing to do with us, but they're going to make that narrative go because they need something. And each time it is a violent narrative. It is to show, oh, they are out of control. And the whole thing, oh, militants, and anything you say against the system, against the people, or anything else is taken as a threat. And because we don't move physically, they have to create something. They have to, it's like the devil has to make a contract and you have to agree to it. So when he presents the scenario and you agree to it, you engage with him. And now you went, and now this whole violence and all this other thing starts. So I just want to say we have absolutely nothing to do with, what is it, Darrell Jones, Brown, whatever his name is.
Darrell Brooks.
Darrell Brooks. It's essentially unimportant to me. We have nothing to do with that. We're not affiliated with him. He's affiliated with no school that we know of. And I'm saying that as a whole, as Israelites, not just the House of David, as a whole, has nothing to do with us. But this is what some of you would call a false flag. Now, the incident really took place, but the whole false thing is to put it on a school, put it on a group. So now we can go attack that group. That process is called demonization, right? What you do is you pull the person out of that character and you create a character for them. So if I create a negative character and get you to believe it, you're okay with whatever punishments I dole out. And that's the purpose of that whole thing, right? Just so you know. So with that in mind, and seeing that they're creating situations like this, as an Israelite who goes out in the street and you teach on the streets and all these things, you have to be mindful of what you say and how you say it. Now, the first scripture we're going to go to is because we have to get our minds right, because we sit there and we stress the book is about us. It's all about Israelites, whatever the case is. But then we go out and make it about somebody else, right? So let's go to Isaiah 58 and verse 1.
This is the book.
We're going to read the 4. Go ahead.
Right. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 58, verse 1. Cry aloud.
Cry aloud. So we know what that means. To cry aloud, to be heard.
Spare not.
Lift up thy voice like a trumpet. Right, like the trumpet when it called the arm, called the prayer, whatever it is in the military. Lift up thy voice like a trumpet, so all can hear, all can stop and pay attention. Go ahead.
And show my people their transgressions.
Wait, show who their transgressions?
My people their transgressions.
Edomites.
My people their transgressions.
Arabs.
my people their transgressions.
So we say that, but then we proceed to show everybody else their transgressions. It says, show my people their transgressions, because it's our mistakes are the reasons that we're here, and that's what we have to correct. So when we put that out, be mindful. You just said, show my people their transgressions, and then you go proceed to talk about somebody else. You have taught your people nothing but to place blame. Now, it's not to say that this government and the people and all are not responsible for what's continuing to happen with us and continuing the oppression. However, we're the ones that need the correction, right? So let's go ahead, continue with that.
And the house of Jacob their sin.
The transgressions and sins, same thing. Go ahead.
Verse 2.
Uh-huh.
Yet they seek me daily.
Right. So we seek in the Most High daily, do we not? Go ahead.
And delight to know my ways.
And we delight to know the ways of the Most High, the laws, statutes, commandments, the faith. Go ahead.
As a nation that did righteousness.
So we do it as a nation that did righteousness. How often do we go out there and tote how righteous we are? Look at us and look at what you're doing to us. But he clearly said, show my people their transgressions. And the first thing we do, we act like we're righteous every time we approach it. Because if that was the case, we would not be in this country. I would not be reading these scriptures to you. He wouldn't be reading it to you. You wouldn't have to hear this if we were righteous. This is why he's telling us, address yourselves, and then he will address the rest of the world. Go ahead.
And forsook not the ordinance of their power.
And we act like we didn't forsake the Most High, the ordinances, his laws, and his power. Go ahead.
They ask of me the ordinances of justice.
So we ask for him, oh, justice, oh, look what they did to us, or whatever. We know they're doing wrong to us, but we have to correct ourselves first, because when we correct ourselves, he doles out more punishment on them. The better you get, the worse he is going to treat your enemies, because now you're building yourself up into a righteous person, and he doesn't want anyone touching you when you're righteous. When you're in sins, you're open to punishment. You're open to these things to come. But as you proceed in righteousness, you think he wants someone to harm you. You think he won't stop that. You think he won't cause another mudslide or an earthquake touching his righteous children. We ask for justice, but we are not being just in the situation. Go ahead.
They take delight in approaching up to the Most High.
Right. And we do definitely delight in it. Go ahead. This is about fasting really quick. Go ahead.
Verse 3. Wherefore have we fasted, say they, and thou sayest not. So
now we're getting indignant. Well, we did all of this fasting. Well, when are you going to come through for us? Though that's really spoiled children. We're coming to you like we're righteous, and then we're asking you, well, I fasted. Well, what did I do this for? That's a lot of nerve to try to talk to the Most High that way. Go ahead.
Wherefore have we afflicted our soul, and thou takest no knowledge.
Yo, I fasted all day. I was hungry and everything. Yo, the peach was right there. I ignored it. You didn't eat. That's what you did. You didn't eat because your focus was on I didn't eat anything, not to be righteous in that. But go ahead.
Behold, in the day of your fast, ye find pleasure.
Because sometimes we get so used to a fast that it becomes common. Sometimes we get so used to wearing fringes and everything else, it becomes common and you take it for granted. So you fast so often, not saying that's the case, because some brothers are really diligent and excellent at doing it and they keep their spirit, but many of us are not. And we do it so often that it becomes common. It becomes repetition. It's a habit. Okay, yeah, I'm fast and I'm chill, but you're still cursing. You're still talking to homeboy. And this is in my opinion. So I'm showing you how I see it. It's almost like a personal Sabbath, and you defile it when you're doing your own things on that fast. You have to be aware that you are fasting and petitioning. And as you petition and you're making yourself hungry, you're being heard on high. Are those wicked thoughts going up with you? Is that behavior going up with you? Is that conversation you're having about that woman or that man going up also? Because you're still fasting, but you did it so often that you're forgetting what the purpose was for that. Go ahead.
And exact all your labors.
And exact all your labors. Go ahead.
Verse 4. Behold, ye fast for strife and debate.
Are you fasting to get more knowledge and wisdom, which is excellent, but are you then using it to strive and debate with people? I'm not saying we shouldn't strive and debate when it's called for, but are you doing it for that reason? To show that you know more than someone else? That's pride. And we have to be extremely careful of that. The higher he allows us to be, the more humble we have to become. We got to balance it out. If you do not balance it out, you will become prideful, and destruction or sin is lying at the door. It's waiting for you. I know it. His ego's gonna boost more. It's gonna boost a little more. And as soon as it boosts, I'm gonna get in him. I'm gonna make him talk like this, and I'm gonna step out. And he's not gonna know what happened to him when that punishment comes. Or she, if she's talking on his sideline. You have to humble yourself. The more knowledge and the more information you get, you want to bring yourself down. You humble yourself, he raises you up. You are prideful, he will take you down. And you've seen it before. So you have to watch that. So just like we're having this day of prayer tomorrow, it wasn't specified a fast. Check it out, though, to see what they say. But even in that, if we're going to pray, keep it in mind. If you got to force yourself to think about it, all right, what do we need to do? What's going on with it? Start to see and feel those things. So as you begin to pray, that comes on you. And then you put it, even if you got to pray for a few minutes, step out, step back in. Whatever you got to do, but make your petition pure to the Most High. Go ahead.
And to smite with the fist of wickedness. Ye shall not fast as ye do this day.
Yeah, just read the beginning of verse 5.
Verse 5. Is it such a fast that I have chosen?
And then you have to ask, is it such a fast that I have chosen? Did I ask you to do that? Now, you can fast and petition to him, but what's happening, he's asking you because you're making it like, I have to respect this day. Is it a fast that I gave you? You are petitioning. Always remember that. You are petitioning to a king and a ruler to give you mercy. Always remember who you're petitioning to or get destroyed. Because trust and believe, when you go into a courthouse and that judge's there, you remember who you're petitioning to. Immediately when you see that white man up there, you know who you're petitioning to. So just think about this great black power that's there will destroy you faster than he would, or use that same one to destroy you. Remember, do all things as if you're doing it for the Most High. Even when you're in front of those Edomites, okay, humble yourself. Keep in prayer with the Most High. He may change it, or you may deserve the punishment. We don't know, but you have to be humble. So you have to, so when you cry out, lift up your voice and everything else like that, you need the correction. He's telling you to correct yourselves, myself. That's who we're supposed to be correcting. It doesn't mean we don't prophesize about what's coming and what's being done to us, but that's not the forefront of this program. This program is to bring us up, and in that process, they will go down. So it's not about them. It's about them only in small snippets. It's mostly about us getting ourselves together. So with that, let's go to Matthew chapter 10 and verse 16. Whoops. These are some things to think about as you speak the word, go out in the street, or however you do it. Things to think about. So Matthew chapter 10 and verse 16. Do we need any more than that? You know what? Actually, read to read to 20, 16 to 20.
Okay. This is the book of Matthew chapter 10, verse 16.
Go ahead.
Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves.
So we know we're the lost sheep. We know we're Yahweh's sheep. I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. If sheep go in the midst of wolves, what are they going to do? First of all, they're going to be frightened. However, what's different with sheep, what are they going to do? They're going to come together and huddle together because in numbers, there's protection. That's what sheep naturally do. We have to get to the point of being like those sheep. We are his sheep, but he wants us to get to that point. I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves, meaning what? There's danger around you. All the circumstances around you are extremely dangerous, and you are sheep who's essentially, in some cases, innocent, or you can't defend yourself, right? Because we may be able to fight, but we can't defend ourselves against this entire system, right? So I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Go ahead.
Be ye therefore wise as serpents.
So notice the devil, the deceiver, or Satan is known as a serpent. You should be as smart as he is, even being a sheep. You've been in this system. Oh, the white man does this, he does that. If you know how he operates, why do you keep falling for it? If you know he's going to put a program on that makes you look bad, he's going to make you the face of homosexuality, he's going to make you the face of all that's wrong, and you get emotional, you're not as wise as a serpent, because you should realize that's a setup. That's a setup to provoke you or pushing your buttons to make you move on him, to make you come out of your face so then he can accuse you, to make you come out of the Bible, because he may very well come up and say things to get you excited and got you out the book. Now all those spirits come, got him, and then now you're arguing. Oh yeah, you this is, and not once are you quoting the Bible. Not once are you concerned about the brethren that's around you, whether because you may say it and they may go attack them. Right? So remember, this is the devil that you're dealing with. Be wise as a serpent. Everything he does is a trap, or he's setting snares around you, and you keep stepping in it. His presence alone should not provoke you. If anything, you should be more mindful, considering what's going on and how they're trying to set us up. You have to be mindful of how you speak and what you say. It is not to say that you can't tell them about themselves, but there's a such thing called vocabulary words. You don't have to say it a certain way. You can use different words. Even better, you could use the Bible to chastise him, because that's what this is here for. You can use your own words, but are you tethered to the word? You can step out, but you have to have the ability to step back in. Step out, step back in, like fishing, right? So in the midst of wolves, right? Be wise as a serpent, but go ahead.
And harmless as doves.
And harmless as doves. He does not want you to cause the problem. Wise as a serpent, harmless as doves. So you have to watch. And it's a back and forth. It's a balancing act that you have to keep, right? Go ahead.
Matthew chapter 10, verse 17.
Uh-huh.
But beware of men.
Beware of men. So he's telling you those wolves are actually men. Go ahead.
For they will deliver you up to the council.
Uh-huh.
And they will scourge you in their synagogue.
So you have to beware of men, because they will deliver you up to the council. So that could be within your own school, if it's that way, if someone is wicked enough to come at you that way, or it's in the world. They can deliver you up to councils. You keep going out of your face, and you got what is it, the ADL? I think that's what it's called, Anti-Defamation League, all this other stuff. You got Israelites that, well, so-called want to be called Israelites that are committing crimes, who they label as Israelites. All of this is going on to paint a harsh picture of you, and then you play the role because you can't control your mind. You can't control your emotions, so you play the role. You hear men say all the time, I can't stand that. Angry black woman, angry black woman. How do you think they see us when we're out there? The angry black man. And then you use the scripture as an excuse. If you're going to use the scripture to express your anger, speak the words of it. But if you express your anger outside of it, you speak worldly, the world can touch you. You speak righteously, he'll block you. He'll protect you. However, unless you're a martyr, they may touch you anyway. But you have to watch what you say. You do not want to sit there. You're there to be fishermen and to get fish, and you keep cutting and putting blood out there and think sharks won't come. And I think sharks eventually won't get anything. And don't forget, they're getting clips of you. A lot of them go, see a lot of Edomites come by and record, and they're setting up. Just like Google, every time you go in and record something, they do something too. And they're building a case against you. Just like the devil does. He builds a case against you. And you keep falling for it. And you think you're weak if you don't say something harsh. That's not, it takes more strength to hold it back and to speak than it does the that's actually a weakness. Now, don't get me wrong. At certain times, it's necessary, especially in defense of yourself or family. But if it's just words and you're reading this book and you haven't gotten past that, you need to reread. Where were we? So these are men and women that's going to do this to you, right? That's in the world, that's trying to close in on you, that's trying to get you emotional, to try to pull you out of the book, to get you out of character, to get you out of righteous character. Go ahead.
Verse 18. And ye shall be brought before governors and kings for my sake.
Now, this is actually what you want, because when you are wise as a serpent and you behave like a sheep, that's how you want them to take you before council, because you did what you were supposed to, not because you said how you felt and I didn't want to look like a punk in front of the other. Why do you care what they think? If you're doing righteously and speaking the word, they should uplift you and edify you for what you did. But if you're sitting there trying to copy off the next man and please other people, you got to go back in and reset, because you're worried about being what am I trying to say? The brain fart. You have respect of persons, is what I'm saying. You're concerned about what everybody, I don't want to look like a punk, so I'm gonna edit this, and then I'm like, yeah, faggot. What did you really do? You're doing that to impress people.
Right.
Is that how you really are? Is that the spirit he gave you? Are you like that at work? Are you like that around Edomites outside of being in the camp? You should ask yourself that question. You should be the same at work and outside of work. Now it's different if you're speaking on what's going on in the world and you're speaking justice and that comes out and you accuse it, but your character should essentially be the same. Because just like, and again, I'm not comparing to myself anything like that. But the one thing I will say, trying to remain humble, nobody accuses me at work of acting different, because the same thing I tell you, I tell them. But if they ask me, I'll tell them in a heartbeat, oh, well, yeah, it does say slavery. And very matter of fact, what are you going to do about it? Nothing. It's in the word, and it's going to happen no matter how you feel about it. But I'm just saying there's different ways to deal with it. So in other words, you want to do righteousness. You want to be wise as a serpent, harmless as a dove. And then as you do his work and you go out there and you speak against him and you testify against him and they bring you in front of governors and all those things, that's an honor. That's an honor. That's why you want those cuffs thrown on you. That's why you want them to accost you for doing what he said, because then you're blameless. They can't fault you. So then they just lost him. Grab him anyway. Go ahead.
For a testimony against them and the Gentiles.
So I'm sorry, go back. What was that? What verse was that?
That's verse 18.
Go ahead.
Verse 18 from the top again. And ye shall be brought before governors and kings for my sake.
Right.
For a testimony against them and the Gentiles.
So you want to be a living testimony against them, right? When Yashaiyah was there, right, and he was in front of Pilate. Did he say anything against him? He said, "Oh, are you the king of the Jews?" Thou sayest. There was no point where he's just like, "Yeah, this and that." You did not see that anywhere in the book. And if he's the model to follow, where did we get that from? Again, I'm not saying there's not time for those energies, because also believe sometimes we come out this way and it's happening that way because they need punishment also. They need to hear the pain that was caused to us, and that fear needs to be instilled in them. But that's not always the case. And that shouldn't be the majority of the time either, right? So you don't hear it. You never heard him do that. But that's why he says, go ahead, read 19.
Matthew chapter 10, verse 19. But when they deliver you up, take no thought how or what ye shall speak. For it shall be given you in that same hour what ye shall speak.
Almost like the same time when we go out there and we do camp and we go out there and we rehearse, all right, I'm going to go over these verses, whatever, and it changes. Don't worry about it. The Spirit may guide you on what you're going to say. And that's what you want. You want to be an open vessel. So this is what he's telling you. Be an open vessel. Don't worry about what you're going to say. I'll speak for you. But he will not speak through you if you lack humility. Now, you might be harsh, but you might be humble to him, and he can use that also. Because sometimes he may not want to use a sword. He might want to use a hammer. But are you doing what you're supposed to internally to please the Most High and to be used as a vessel? So you got to watch. So we got to balance. Because sometimes you got a hard charge because of how they're coming at you. But know your audience. If they're not coming, rah-rah, what's the point? What's the point of sitting there? They just listen and you start beating them. Now you're doing it out of habit because you copy what everybody else did. You can't adjust to your crowd. So you got to watch stuff like that. Go ahead.
Verse 20. For it is not ye that speak.
When you're in the Spirit, go ahead.
But the Spirit of your Father which speaketh in you.
Which speaketh in you. So you want to keep yourself open, keep yourself humble, follow the law, statutes, commandments, so he can utilize you, so they can speak through you. And trust and believe you'll be bringing out swords and hammers and maybe calm as hell doing it. And then that's like what it says in Acts, they couldn't resist the wisdom of, or the spirit of Stephen. It's the same thing. Because the wisdom is so strong that they cannot resist it. What were you going to say, bro?
My comment was verse 20 says that, for it is not ye that speak, but the Spirit of your Father. Does that mean that, for instance, would it be saying like, this is not your mentality, but the mentality of God?
Yeah, you want to speak, and Yahweh shall to speak through you. So that's why you want to humble yourself. Because when you think about it, when we go out there, these are not our words. So these are his words. So it's him speaking. But you want to watch how you dictate how his words come out. You understand? Okay, so let's go to Matthew 18:7. Again, everything I say, it's for me also. 18 and 7. Go ahead.
This is the book of Matthew chapter 18, verse 7. Woe unto the world because of offenses.
So woe unto the world because of offenses, right? Because there's constantly offenses coming in, either visually, audibly, somebody says something, something happens. There's offenses coming to us all the time. We're constantly barraged by offenses and things that get into our spirit and dampen us down. But go ahead.
For it must need be that offenses come.
This has to happen. This is the way of the world. It's a wicked world. So offenses have to come, intentional or not. This stuff has to happen. But go ahead.
But woe to that man by whom the offense cometh.
That is a warning. But woe, misery, destruction to the man from whom that offense cometh. You have to be careful when you're dealing with this word that you are not offensive. It's one thing, understand something. The truth is offensive by itself. You don't need to add to it to make it, oh, let me make this hit you even hard. No. It's written perfectly. You read it as it says and you make them understand it. But you adding your own thing to it, you're causing offense now. Because this is what happens when he says, my name is blasphemed among the heathen or the Gentiles because of you. And remember, a lot of us, our own people, are Gentiles and heathen by mind, by nationality. But there's also those around. Because you actually want the point where they come to say, these are the people of God. You want them to see you that way. When you speak in your spirit, speak from a higher place of authority. And they will see it when you speak. They will humble down to you and they'll realize they have no match for anything because this word is in you. You don't want to drudge that up from the ground up and then push that out because then it's like, oh, that's a nigga with a Bible. There's a difference between you having that spirit of majesty staying in his word and you creating your own thing and pushing it out there to force someone to respect you. They don't have to respect you. It's unimportant. But what they will need to do is respect that word. And sometimes you speak and you see if you speak it right, they go crazy on their own without you doing anything. What do you mean he doesn't love everyone? The word did that. That's why I said these are not, that spirit that's in you. These are his words coming through you. You want to be that tool and you want to study. And as you study, what happens is you may study to be a hammer, study to be a sword, study to be a compass and square. And then now what happens is you're building a tool belt. So at any point he was like, I need the sword. I need the hammer. I need the screwdriver. You want to be whatever tool he needs to use at that time. Doesn't mean you're always going to be on that point, but you want to try to get yourself to that point. But woe to him that causes offense. You don't want to be purposefully offensive. Let the word do it. You can have the anger and the rage of all the generations, have it. And then focus it and harness in the delivery of the word. And then what could they say? What could they actually say against you, but that you followed the word? Well, he said, that's in the scriptures. Well, then he acted, well, that's in the scripture too. But then if you go out on your own, you have blame now. And you don't want that. So woe to him that causes offenses. Or by the man whom offenses come. Let's go to 2 Peter 2 and 5. And I'm going to also 2 Peter 2 and 5. We're going to go from 5 to 11. 2 Peter. No, not 5. Hold on, give me 1 sec. Okay, yeah, start from 5. So this is basically warning about false teachers and about things and behaviors and stuff like that. So it relates to what we were just talking about. So 2 Peter 2:5, I'm going to read to verse 11.
This is the book of 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 5.
Go ahead.
And spare not the old world,
Mm-hmm.
but save Noah, the eighth person.
Because we know Noah was righteous. So he saved Noah. Go ahead.
A preacher of righteousness, bring in the flood upon the word of the ungodly.
So notice these men were always meek. They were humble. This is how they carried themselves. And when they spoke, they spoke his word. And what happened? Vengeance came upon the whole world for these meek and humble men whom you've been persuaded not to act like, whom you've been persuaded that they acted differently than what's written here. Where did you get that from? Did you get it from the book? This is Noah. Noah was humble. Now they said he was a drunkard or whatever. Most of us drink. Come on.
Right.
They say he was a drunkard. He drank. So what? And then Moses, same thing. And what happened? Moses was meek and humble. But however, when his people were getting destroyed, he cracked. And what did the Most High tell him? Run. Get out of here. Now, it wasn't supposed to kill, but guess what? In that situation, you see the difference in how he treats them? And they were meek and humble. They're awarded a little more than everybody else did. David was meek and humble, and he loved him. He was a warrior also. You can be meek, humble, and still be a warrior, because a soldier does what? He trains, he gets all his training, he learns how to fire all these weapons, and he gets sent to Afghanistan and does absolutely nothing. Just sits there and waits. And he has to maintain, and he has to keep his mind about him, despite all the training he had, until that day comes when the order is given. Then he can kill at will. So just like with the Most High, you have to wait for the order to be given. If you are a soldier in Christ, you will wait until the order is given. Now, verbally, you can say what you need to, so long as it's within the scripture and you're not going outside of it. But as far as violence is concerned, this is why that man has nothing to do with us. As soldiers of the Most High, we wait for the order. We don't go to riots. We don't do other stuff. Like, we wait for the order. So anyone stepping outside and doing anything like that, they have nothing to do with us. Look at the tattoos on its arm. That's breaking commandments. We don't wear tattoos like that unless we had it prior. But man, and almost each time, I think one time you guys got slick and got somebody with a beard because you were reading a little bit. But for the most part, none of them even have, you don't even pay attention to what you're doing to us. But again, they're not associated with us, but you don't want to be associated with the negative image, right? And another thing they like to say is Black Hebrew Israelites. Black is color psychology, right? Because it always connotates something negative, something dark, something evil. And white, something good, something pure. It is a color game. You should never say out of your mouth as an Israelite, the black. You sound like a fool when you say that. God. You also sound, it's a misnomer. It's improper. It also indicates that there's white Hebrew Israelites, and I highly doubt that. There are no white Hebrew Israelites. So there are no black Hebrew Israelites. There are Hebrew Israelites, or they're just Israelites. There's Hebrews of many different looks, but there's specific Israelites. You have to correct, every time you hear it, correct it. You correct everything else, correct people when they say that. Do not accept that label. That is a label white people gave. They gave the label black, so why are you going with it? Whenever they say black Hebrew Israelites, there is a mission. When someone repeats it, it shows that their mind is dumbed down. When someone accepts black Hebrew Israelites and they repeat it, it shows they accept what the negative people say, what the government says. So you have to be careful of that. It has nothing to do with us. But let's read this. I'm sorry, I'm going on a tangent. Verse 6. No, I'm sorry. Yeah. Read the rest of it.
Verse 6. This is 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 6.
Mm-hmm.
And turning the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah into ashes, condemn them with an overthrowing, making them an ensample unto those that after shall live ungodly.
So he destroyed the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. What was rampant there? Homosexuality, theft, and all these other things. And I'm sure pedophilia was going on there also. This is a modern day Sodom and Gomorrah. Actually, Ronald Reagan said that in an interview. I forgot who was speaking to, a show in the 80s. I saw a clip, and he was saying, yeah, we have to get ourselves together. Now, he was speaking as a worldly way, and mostly white people. We have to get ourselves together. He said, if we don't get America together, I feel we'll see Armageddon, and we will repeat the actions of Sodom and Gomorrah. He said that in the 80s. So if they know what's going on, why don't you? This is Sodom and Gomorrah, and that was an example of what's going to happen. Don't accept the behaviors. Don't acknowledge it. Don't enjoy it. Ignore it. Turn the TV off. Don't entertain the conversation because you don't want to get overthrown with those people. That's why it says, come out of her, my people. The doctrine, the way of life, and everything else. That's why we dress different. I mean, we're given a dress code. Some you see different Israelites have different colors or whatever the case is. But the majority, we have a similar dress code. We have a similar way that we look. We have and we have the exact same book. Prayerfully, we have the same book. And you have to realize that he is showing you, not only because he has you as a nation, but he's showing that you are separate from the world. And all those things are examples. Sodom and Gomorrah show you have to be different. Don't stoop to their level. See, and the whole key is stoop, because you're higher than they are. So don't stoop. You talk over if you have to. You condescend to someone of like mind, to your people. Okay, condescend is not always negative. It means to come down. So if you're in a high position, right, I have all this knowledge and I have to teach you, I have to condescend. That's all that means, is to come down. But again, they reverse the, you're condescending. I'm not talking down to you. I'm coming down to match where you are, to bring you back up where I am. So you have to condescend sometimes when you talk to people. Go ahead.
Verse 7. And delivered just Lot, vexed with the filthy conversation of the wicked.
And delivered just Lot, another righteous person, who was vexed with the filthy conversation of the wicked. We got to learn to get vexed with those conversations, because a lot of times we fall into it, again, out of habit, because it comes common, regular talk. We have to become vexed with those conversations. We have to become vexed with those images. We have to become vexed with Black Hebrew Israelite. We can no longer, it doesn't mean go fight it right away, but you fight it internally first. You fight it within your family and your group and community. You do not entertain them. So Lot was vexed with the conversation of the wicked. We too should be vexed whenever we hear that. Go ahead.
Verse 8. For that righteous man dwelling among them.
So go ahead.
In seeing and hearing, vex his righteous soul from day to day with their unlawful deeds.
Doesn't it make you angry every time you hear them talk, and every time you see the images on television, and every time you see one of us getting killed on the news? Everything, it vexed his righteous soul from day to day. But also know that our brothers and sisters that are getting killed are examples to us from the Most High. Is he not the one who decides who lives and dies? So who gave the order? Regardless if the Edomites did it, doesn't mean we can't be upset. Who gave the order? And then you got to question, why did he give that order? You have to ask, because if he's the author of it, he gave that order. What did that person do? How much did they get away with before it was time's up? You have to ask that question. Doesn't mean you can't feel sad or upset about it, but you have to consider. If you have that knowledge, you have to consider. And you have to say, all praises that it didn't happen. All praises that you kept me protected and you kept me from that. And you want to keep yourself that way. You don't want that. You don't want that invitation to death. And trust me, Satan is waiting. He was like, I seen him do this the other day. I seen him do that the other day. I'm telling you, he's going to mess up again. Just let me kill him. Just let me kill him. You do not want to give them fuel, because trust me, your enemy is walking around with torches. And sometimes brothers just like this and watch the flames. But you do realize when you squirt fuel, the fire finds its way into that vessel and it'll explode right in your hands. So when you're out there spitting fuel to your enemy and you're shocked, and then you're going to be shocked all of a sudden when that fire crosses that line. I was doing a will of the Most. You kept squirting fuel, and the fire will find its way back across. Just like when a house burns on fire, there's always a sign. There's always a little triangle on the pyramid that's not burned in that entire location. The origin of the fire, it's going to point back to you. You're the reason they were able to cross that line. You have to think about your behavior and how you interact with people. Again, I'm not saying don't be angry, and sometimes that sword and hammer needs to come out, but you have to use wisdom. It is a time of psychological war, and you falling for everything and you're not prepared for that war. You're not even watching your brothers around you, because you got to realize you might do that, but they might get killed. Something might happen to them because of what you. Well, I felt like I should have said. Well, such as what are you going to explain to their family now? No, I was righteous. Well, quote the scripture you said before that happened. Cry loud, lift up, tell every white person what they did. Don't say that in that book. I'm not saying don't, but I'm saying you got to be mindful of what you're doing. Did we get to 10? No. Go to 9.
This is the book of 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 9.
Notice this.
The Most High knoweth how to deliver the godly out of temptations.
Knoweth how to deliver the godly out of temptations. Go ahead.
And to preserve the unjust unto the day of judgment, to be punished.
And reserve the unjust unto the day of judgment to be punished. So it's an expectation that you should have, that they will be punished, and you should look forward to that. However, you got to watch yourself, because he delivers the godly out of temptation, which means you got to be on your P's and Q's also. You got to behave godly from to help you out of that situation. And you got to call on him also. Don't just be in it and thinking because you're an Israelite, you don't need to pray to him in that situation. Pray anyway. Keep that line of communication open at all times. Sometimes it may not be what you want to hear, but accept that. But you have to do that. Go ahead.
Verse 10. But chiefly them that walk after the flesh in the lust of uncleanness, and despise government. We're dealing with righteous government, but we despise governments here. We despise them, but we should follow so long it is not telling us to go against the word. Follow what the government says, but when it tells you to go against this word and the Most High and his Messiah, you don't follow that law anymore. That's time to break the law. That's when you break the law, not before that. Go ahead. Presumptuous are they. Self-willed, they are not afraid to speak evil of dainties.
Of dignities.
Of dignities.
So you're not afraid to speak evil of those who are in high position and things like that. We shouldn't be, so long as we do it in righteousness and keep with the word. But go ahead. This is read 11.
Verse 11. Whereas angels, which are greater in power and might.
Whereas angels, which are greater in power and might. Go ahead.
Bring not railing accusations against them before the Most High.
The angels don't do that, and they're greater in power and might, but you do it. So he's in that sense, he's compared you like they're more powerful in might, and they don't keep bringing these accusations. But you keep bringing accusations. Oh, they did this, that. And we read in Isaiah 58:1, you coming up to me like you're righteous. The angels don't do it. So it doesn't mean don't bring accusations, but is that all you're doing? Accusations. Remember, our focus is our people. We raise them up, the other ones go down. And it'd be something splendid to look for. All right, so with that, we're going to switch subjects. How are we looking on time? I think we're right. Let me give you some vocabulary words that you should know. Write these words down. Some vocabulary words that you should know that you're going to run across in the scripture. And knowing these words will help you break down verses, and it will also help you understand that when you get those people, why do you keep going to the Old Testament? When you know the meaning of these words, you don't even have to flip pages. You could dance with you want to stay in the New Testament. Okay, then I'm going to cut you with the New Testament, right? So let's go with some of these words. The first word we're going to go with is restore, right? Which is, you can go to Acts 1:6. Restore is to return to a person, to recover, or to bring back to its original way, to restore something. You're bringing it back to what it was once before, right? So let's utilize our vocabulary word. Let's go to Acts 1:6. I'll give you a chance to catch up. So the first word is to restore. I think I might have skipped the verse. You can give them a few more seconds, and then we'll jump right into that. Where am I? 147. And okay, yeah, we'll save that for last. So restore. So Acts 1:6.
This is the book of Acts, chapter 1:6.
Go ahead.
When there therefore were come together, they asked of him, saying,
So they're asking of Yahweh. Go ahead.
Adawan, will thou at this time restore again the kingdom of Yashaiyah, Israel?
So will you at this time restore again the kingdom to Israel? To restore means something was lost or missing. So if he's restoring the kingdom, he's bringing it back to the people that had it. Restore again. So it's doubled. bringing back what belonged to someone else. You're restoring. Will thou at this point restore the kingdom again to Israel? You cannot have something restored that you did not have. How is like, oh man, you just walk up to a person, you know, my cereal cabinet's empty. What are they going to give you? I don't even know you. What am I supposed? Why should I give you anything? I don't owe you anything. They cannot restore something that they didn't take from you or that wasn't taken from you. So he has to be talking to someone that had something in the first place that needs it replaced. The next word is redeem. Really quick, write these scriptures down. We're not going to go to them. Add to that to restore Mark 3 and 5 and Galatians 6 and 1. Mark 3 and 5, Galatians 6 and 1. The next word that we're going to go to is redeem. Redeem. And the definition of redeem is to purchase back, to ransom, to liberate or rescue, or to compensate, right? Giving equal value. So with that one, we're going to go to Luke chapter 1 and verse, I believe it's 68. I could be wrong. I believe it's 1 and 68. Mark, Luke.
Yep.
Redeem, yeah.
Yep. Okay, cool. So Luke chapter 1 and verse 68. Go ahead.
Everybody got it?
You got it? Luke chapter 1 and verse 68. Redeem. Good.
This is the book of Luke chapter 1 verse 68.
Mm-hmm.
Blessed be the Most High power of Israel, for he hath visited and redeemed his people.
So he hath visited and redeemed his people. They shall know the truth, and the truth shall make them free. So he liberated them spiritually. He rescued them from the mindset of the world. He compensated them with the word, right? He is there to purchase them back. So he redeemed his people, current and future tense, because he's going to redeem the people. So add to those verses, Luke 24:21. Titus 2 and 14. Revelation 5 and 9. The next word we're going to go to, no, Titus 2 and 14, yeah, if that's what you said. And Revelation 5 and 9. So the next word we're going to go to is reconcile. Reconcile, just like in school, repeat it. Then to reconcile is to call back into union and friendship, to bring back to a good place, right? So let's go to 2 Corinthians chapter 5 and verse 18. So it's the word is reconcile. So 2 Corinthians chapter 5 and verse 18. I guess you can go ahead. Yeah.
This is the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 5 verse 18. And all things are of the Most High, who have reconciled us to himself by Mashiach, Yahweh.
So notice what it says. All things are of the Most High, who hath reconciled us to himself by Yahweh. So he brought us back to a good place with himself through his son. Back to a good place to himself through his son. Go ahead.
And have given to us the ministry of reconciliation.
So that's key there. So he brought us back into a good state by his son. Brought us back into a good state by his son. Right? Go ahead. And he says, and have given to us the ministry of reconciliation. So if that's our ministry to reconcile, that means we have to go out and fix what is no longer good. We never had it good with the other nations. So what do I have to fix with them? So obviously, when I go out with the ministry of reconciliation, I have to go to the people that caused the division with the Most High in the first place in order to make it come back together. That's the ministry, to reconcile, the ministry of reconciliation, the ministry of bringing it back to a good place. That's what his son was for. So when we go out and speak, my job is to reconcile you with the Most High, to reconcile you with Yahweh, the ministry of reconciliation, to bring back to a good state or a friendship. Now, how do we qualify the words that we just used? Restore, redeem, and reconcile. We go to Psalms 147 and 19. So very easily, if you know the definition of the words you're reading, you could put a stop to most debates just with those verses alone. Because and what you want to do, and a way to do it, is you want to ask them what those words mean and give you examples. Because when they give you the examples and then you read the scriptures, they're going to have to make it up to qualify what they're saying. Oh, well, no. Oh, really? Because you just said that's what the word means. Just watch. It's a tactic to use if you want to trip them up with the scriptures. It's to prove what the scripture is saying, but, utilize it with fun. Again, tethered. As long as you're tethered to the scriptures, you're all right. Right, so Psalms, I'm not even there. I'm sorry. 147, verse 19 and 20. Go ahead.
This is the book of Psalms, chapter 147, verse 19.
Go ahead.
He showeth his word unto Jacob.
So he showeth his word unto Jacob, right? Jacob being the forefather of the Israelites, before his name changed, before he wrestled with the angel. He showed his word to Jacob. Go ahead.
His statutes and his judgment unto Israel.
So he gave his laws to Israel. Go ahead.
Verse 20. He have not dealt so with any nation.
So he has not dealt so with any nation. So if he has not given them anything, what does he have to reconcile? If he has not given them anything, what does he have to restore? If he has not lost those people, why should he redeem them? Go ahead.
And as for his judgments, they have not known them.
You don't know anything he did. So he doesn't have to reconcile. He doesn't have to restore you, nor does he have to redeem. Go ahead.
Praise ye the Most High.
Praise ye the Most High, because he ain't got to do none of that. So see how important it is to know the definition of the words and how that just chops any doctrine? Anything is to do over. If he just said, I've never dealt with any other nation, there's no do-over. You never had anything to begin with. You have the world around you. We are the ones that need to be redeemed. We are the ones that need to be restored. The kingdom has to be restored to us. Now, what was the other word I used? And we're the ones that have to reconcile. So this is why Yahweh came, to be the mediator between us. So he's essentially a counselor in the divorce of the Most High and his people. He's the lawyer. He's the counselor. You know what? Maybe you should try to reconcile with them. They really feel like this about you. You know what? You broke his covenant. Do you understand what you did wrong to each other? And try to fix it. We need to apply that in our real lives too. I'm hearing myself. But it was like, we have to do those things. And we have to see Yahweh as that way also, as the mediator, right? And not only a mediator, right? And a mediator does what? Is a divine intercessor in this context. He's a divine intercessor that comes in between in this divine situation that's been broken to reconcile. Really quick, let's go to Hebrews 8. How am I looking on time over there?
Looking good.
Looking good, all right. Hebrews chapter 8, and we're going to start with, let me get there with you. For 8 verses 6 to 9. Mm-hmm.
8 verse 6
to 9. And we're dealing with where we went wrong, right? So mediation, the covenant, and how we went about it. Because this is used a lot of times by Christians And what the problem is, they don't fully read in context, like they like to throw at you all the time. Now you got to read it in context. You always want somebody to go back to verse 1 and then back to verse 90, which we don't have all day to do that. We got to get to the point of what the scripture is saying. So Hebrews 8, 6-9.
This is the book of Hebrews, chapter 8, verse 6.
Mm-hmm.
But now have he obtained a more excellent ministry.
Mm-hmm.
By how much also is he the mediator of a better covenant?
So notice he is the mediator of a better covenant. We just read in Psalms that he didn't give anything to the nations. So what do you need a better covenant for? You didn't even have the first one. And now he is the mediator, meaning there was a separation, there was a problem. So now he's mediating us to this better covenant. Go ahead.
Which was established upon better promises.
Right. So now this is where Christians go to say, see, that something was wrong with that covenant. Go ahead.
Verse 7.
Mm-hmm.
For if that first covenant had been faultless.
Stop. See, you don't use the laws. The first covenant had fault in it. Don't you understand why Christ is? You do know that was his father, right? You're saying there was fault with his father, with his thought and what he did when you say that. Go ahead and read it from the start from the beginning. I'm sorry.
Verse 7 again. Uh-huh. For if that first covenant have been faultless, then should no place have been sought for the second.
See, if that first covenant wasn't, that's why we need a second covenant. Don't you understand? So let's look at the word. For if that first agreement had been faultless, then it should have been no place for the second. So what was the fault with the agreement? Where was the fault? Now let's go to verse 8.
Verse 8, for finding fault with them.
No, for finding fault with the covenant.
For finding fault with them.
It was not the covenant. It was the agreeers to the covenant. For finding fault with the people who agreed. Go ahead.
He said, behold, the day is come, saith the Most High,
right,
when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah.
So that alone just cut out everybody else. The house of Israel and the house of Judah. This is where you get that spiritual Israelite doctrine from, because now you're just trying to find a way in there.
Right.
Like, oh, well, no, spiritually, if you're spiritually an Israelite, stop eating pork. If you're a spiritual Israelite, start growing your beard. If you're a spiritual Israelite, be concerned what we cry about on the news. Be concerned for your brothers. But you're not a spiritual Israelite, not even remotely. Keep going.
Verse 9. Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers.
With their fathers, not your fathers. You say to us, our fathers, Abraham. And then it's funny that you use the name Abraham too. Washington, Jefferson, our forefathers. Those are your forefathers. Has nothing to do with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Maybe Isaac, I'll go into that at another time. But when you try to figure out who Esau is and you go to the Anglo-Saxons and they say they're from Isaac, what two sons did Isaac have? Yeah, nobody knows. Esau and Jacob. They will tell you, yes, we're related to Isaac, on up into Abraham. So we are the. I noticed you didn't say Jacob though. You were real cute with that, which helps me know that you're the Edomites in the book because you're making your lineage there, but you keep skipping over Jacob. I got you. I got a lesson for you on that one. Well, go ahead.
Verse 9 again from the top. Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt, because they continue not in my covenant,
right?
And I regard them not, saith the Most High.
Because you didn't follow through with the agreement, I regarded you not. So it's like I asked you to paint my house. We made an agreement. I'm going to give you this amount. Since you didn't paint all of it like you agreed, I'm not paying you. I regard you not. Same thing. You didn't follow through with the covenant. I regard you not. You made an agreement that you were going to do this, and then we put stipulations in. And if you don't do this, Deuteronomy 28, this is going to happen. So understand, we broke the covenant or the agreement, and we have to pay the price because it was listed, and it wasn't even fine print. He outright told us what was going to happen, right? So we're going to drop that. All right, we'll skip that. Okay, really quick. We'll use 5 scriptures. Let's find Israelites in the New Testament. Let's go to James 1:1. And then we'll get to the meat of what I was supposed to do. We'll do that quickly also. James chapter 1 and verse 1. So we're going to qualify everything we just said. And we're going to see who these letters addressed to. Who is this conversation about in this Bible? In the New Testament. So let's go to James chapter 1 and verse 1. Everybody should be there. James chapter 1 and verse 1.
This is the book of James, chapter 1, verse 1.
Because this is a Christian book. Let's go.
All right. James is servant of the Most High and of the Lord Yahweh Mashiach to the 12 tribes.
To who?
To the 12 tribes.
To Christians.
To the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad. Greetings.
Greetings. So James started off his letter dealing with the 12 tribes that are scattered abroad. Somehow he missed Christians. I don't know how James did it, right? So now let's go to 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 1, and we'll read 2 for a bonus.
This is the book of 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 1.
Go ahead.
Peter, an apostle of Yahweh Mashiach, to the strangers scattered.
Whoa, to strangers scattered. That sounds like to the 12 tribes scattered. Go ahead.
Throughout Pontus,
Galatia,
Cappadocia, Asia, and Bithynia.
That which is all essentially Turkey. Turkey. It is not Europe. It's Turkey.
Right.
Go ahead.
Verse 2. Elect according to the foreknowledge of the Most High, the Father, through sanctification of the Spirit, unto obedience and the sprinkling of the blood of Yahweh Mashiach. Grace unto you and peace be multiplied.
So really quick, let's go to Isaiah 45 and 4.
Salah,
Yes.
why do you call them strangers?
Strangers, because that's like us. If he would have come here now, we would be strangers because we're in a different environment. So you got also the Northern Kingdom who are strangers to the government, so on and so forth. Because that's why he said in Galatia, Cappadocia, we take on that environment, right? So we're strangers in that sense because we don't, in so many ways, we don't remember who we are. But he's also addressing us because that memorization is coming in. Oh, the strangers scattered abroad. He's greeting and then giving you breakdowns. Go ahead.
You're saying like culturally?
Culturally, in any other way, because you know what we'll say, well, oh, I'm American or I'm African American. We don't acknowledge or remember Israel or the God that we serve. So we're essentially strangers to the doctrine. 45 and 4. Isaiah 45 and 4.
This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 45, verse 4.
I should have went to Psalms, but that's good. Go ahead.
For Jacob, my servant's sake.
For Jacob, my servant's sake.
And Israel, my elect.
And Israel, mine elect. What we just heard in Peter. Go ahead.
I have even called thee by thy name.
Even called thee by thy name. Go ahead.
I have surnamed thee, though thou hast not known me.
And that makes you stranger. I surnamed you. I gave you the name Israel. I attached my name to you, though you have not known me. In that sense, you're a stranger, right? Let's go to Titus 1 and 1. So we just saw in Isaiah 45 and 4 who elect was Israel. So now let's go to Titus chapter 1 and verse 1.
This is the book of Titus, chapter 1, verse 1. Paul, a servant of the Most High, and an apostle of Yahweh Mashiach, according to the faith of the Most High, elect.
The faith of the Most High is elect Israel. Go ahead.
And the acknowledging of the truth.
Psalms 119 and 142. Go ahead.
Which is after godliness.
Oh, no, you don't have to go there. I'm just quoting it out. Okay. Right? For the truth, which is after godliness. So he acknowledged God's or Yahweh's elect, right? And showed distinguishing a servant of Yahweh and an apostle of the Mashiach Yahweh Shai. He showed a separation there, right? That they're two entities, right? Let's go to John 7 and 35.
Which one you said was Psalms? 119 verse
142. Yep. John chapter 7 and verse 35.
Repeat that, sir.
John 7 and 35, right? So this, we'll preface this really quick. This is when he's talking to the Jews, and they're saying when he's going to leave, he said, you shall seek me, but you will not find me. And where I go, you cannot come. So this is the response to it from them, right? And showing that we're dealing with the New Testament and who he was speaking about. Go ahead.
This is book of John, chapter 7, verse 35. Verse 35. Then said the Jews among themselves, where will he go, that we shall not find him?
Like, where could he go that we won't find him? Go ahead.
Will he go unto the dispersed?
Will he go unto the dispersed? Go ahead.
Among the Gentiles?
Will he go to the dispersed among the Gentiles? It didn't say the dispersed that are Gentiles. The dispersed are among the Gentiles. We who are in the diaspora are among Gentiles and heathen. We are not them. We may act like them and think and talk like them, but we are not them. Go among the Gentiles and what?
And teach the Gentiles.
So he's saying, so in order to teach us, these Gentiles are going to get caught up in that. Because he's saying, are you going to go to the dispersed among them and teach them too? Because in order for me to talk to you in the street, other people are going to hear. So I'm mindful of what I'm teaching to you. So I'm going to make sure I'm teaching you the truth and that they hear it also. And that they will be accountable and held. They might even say, you know what? I'm going to tell my nigger friends what he said. That sounds great. They might do that depending on how you speak. All two of them that they have, right? And a precept for that, you can use Acts 21 and 19 for a precept of John 7 and 35, talking about the same thing. All right, let's stay in that same book. Let's go to John chapter 11, verses 51 and 52. This is, I think, this is the first scripture Sabar gave me. Brother Sabar, aka the Phoenix. You will see him come up here at some point, disappear, and return again. Yeah, 11 verses 51 and 50. Actually, go from 47 to 52. And this is the Jews, the Pharisees, Sadducees, and so on, talking about killing Yahweh. Right? Start from 11, 47, and go to 52.
Okay. This is the book of John, chapter 11, verse 47.
Go ahead.
Then gathered the chief priests and the Pharisees a council and said, what do we? For this man doeth many miracles.
So they're like, yo, what do we do? Because he actually can do what he said he could do. Go ahead.
Verse 48. If we let him thus alone, all men will believe on him.
Key. If we leave him alone, all men will believe on him. So now let's take that as followers of the Mashiach. If we let these Negroes teach in this street and don't stop them, people will believe them. So that's why we have these incidents taking place, because we have to stop them from believing him. Same thing that happened with Yahweh. If we leave him alone, they're going to believe him. So now they got to come and bother us. Go ahead.
And the Romans shall come and take away both our place and nation.
So the Romans, the government, they're going to come in. Well, I mean, they're losing it as a whole, but that's what they're worried about is their Edomite masters coming in and taking their position. So this is what I want to say those members of the Boule and fraternal orders, Greek, so on and so forth. That's what their job is. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, I know you're going to come against us, but the Sharptons and all these other people that are honorary members and all that other stuff, they're afraid that the Romans are going to come in and take their positions if they don't speak against us or make sure they don't side with us, because if you side with us, the Romans are going to come take your position. Same thing that happened to our master happens to us. Go ahead.
Verse 49. And one of them named Caiaphas, being the high priest that same year.
So notice Caiaphas, a high priest, go ahead,
said unto them, ye know nothing at all.
Because Caiaphas studied. Go ahead.
Verse 50. Nor consider that it is expedient for us.
That it's good for us. Go ahead.
That one man should die for the people.
That one man should die for the people. You don't realize this is good for us. So Caiaphas, who was a Jew, who was a leader, wasn't one of the people that wanted to crucify him. He saw who he was. Go ahead.
And
Die for the people.
And that whole nation perish not.
And that whole nation perish not. Go ahead.
Verse 51.
Mm-hmm.
And this spake he not of himself,
right,
but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Yahweh should die for that nation.
So notice he prophesies that Yahweh should die for that nation.
Verse 52. And not for that nation only.
Stop. It sounds like, see, not just Israel, right, other nations, but right, let's keep reading.
But that also he should gather together in one the children of the Most High that were scattered abroad.
So he's saying not that nation only, but the children that were scattered abroad into those nations.
Right.
Because we are among the Gentiles. Right. So that's how the word came to the Gentiles, because we were there with you. That's how you got the word. Right. And you're provoking me to jealousy too, because I get angry when y'all start teaching. Again, you can learn from a Gentile, but don't let them teach you. Right. Jeremiah. Yeah, let's get that. Go to John 1:47. Just an unknown verse. John 1:47. We're going to rock with Israelites real quick. We're going to keep that theme going. John chapter 1 and verse 47. Oh, actually, let's start with 45 to 47. John chapter 1 verses 45 to 47.
This is the book of John chapter 1 verse 45.
Go ahead.
Philip finding Nathanael and said unto him, we have found him, of whom Moses in the law and the prophets did write, Yahweh of Nazareth, the son of Joseph.
So Philip and Nathanael knew by the scripture who was prophesied to come, and they said, Philip said, we found him. Go ahead.
Verse 46. And Nathanael said unto him, can there be any good thing come out of Nazareth?
So Yahweh grew up in Nazareth. He said, can anything good come out of Nazareth? The same thing they say about you. Oh, you came out from the, can anything good come out of the projects? Can anything good come out of the hood? Because it's a horrible area. There's no good expectations from anybody, but the light of the Father is in that area. And you come out and you impress the hell out of people, because they're like, man, all of these odds we set up against you and you still came out like this. Same thing with Yahweh. Can anything good come out of Nazareth? Go ahead.
Philip said unto him, come and see.
Come and see, man. I'm telling you, this is the dude. Go ahead.
Verse 47. Yahweh saw Nathanael coming to him and said of him, behold, an Israelite.
Behold,
indeed.
A Christian.
An Israelite indeed.
So Yahweh saw an Israelite. Behold, an Israelite indeed. Go ahead.
In whom is no guile.
No lying mouth, no trickery. He's a good man. Behold, an Israelite indeed, in whom there is no guile. So Yahweh recognized another Israelite. For the sake of time, I'm going to skip around a bit. Let's go to, okay. Yeah, let's go to Jeremiah 50. Do we want to say anything? Did I cover that? 50 and verse. Actually, no. We're going to go to Romans 9 and 4. I'm sorry. Romans 9 and 4. Because Yahweh just said, behold, an Israelite indeed. So now we're going to see what Paul says. Romans 9 and 4.
So,
yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
I was debating with this Christian, and he was saying that just because the Israelites didn't want it, he said Yahweh gave it to the Gentiles. He said
we clearly just showed
that
that's not the case.
Right.
With the reconciliation, the redemption, and the restoring, he's not giving you something you didn't have, and that's why he said, "I came to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." Yep. And then Paul is the one that said we've been given the ministry of reconciliation. Again, you can't reconcile with someone that did not have a relationship with you in the first place. So that alone, stay on those verses and cut them to death.
Right.
In love. Romans chapter 9 and verse 4.
This is the book of Romans chapter 9 verse 4.
Go ahead.
Who are Israelites?
Who are who?
Who are Israelites?
That's a good question. Paul asked that question. Who are Israelites? Go ahead.
to whom pertaineth the adoption.
The adoption, go ahead.
And the glory.
And the glory. Pertaining to means belong to. Belongs to the adoption and the glory. Go ahead.
And the covenants.
The old and new agreements. Go ahead.
And the giving of the law.
The giving of the law comes from the Israelites.
And the service of the Most High.
And we serve the Most High. Go ahead.
And the promises.
And whatever he promises. So he just said, to whom does it belong to? Israelites. Continue.
Verse 5. Whose are the father, and of whom, as concerning the flesh, Mashiach came.
So whom concerning the flesh, the Mashiach came, showing that he came through a fleshly means. He had the spirit of the Most High, but he came through fleshly means. Go ahead.
Who is overall the Most High blessed forever. Amen.
Go ahead, keep reading.
Verse 6. Not as though the word of the Most High have taken none effect. For they are not all Israel, which are of Israel.
So there's a colon after that, meaning he's going to explain what he's saying. Go ahead.
Verse 7. Neither, because they are the seed of Abraham, are they all children. But in Isaac shall the seed be called.
So remember what I said before, that the Anglo-Saxons are really slick and like to say, yeah, see, we're of Isaac, Isaac's son, Isaacsons, Anglo-Saxons. See, we were called in that, and they use this verse to say, see, we're of that same line. You are of the same line, but you're not of the chosen seed. Go ahead.
Verse 8. That is.
But notice really quick. It says, but in Isaac thy seed shall be called, not seeds. So it's not multiple. Right. Seed. Go ahead.
Verse 8. That is, they which are the children of the flesh, these are not the children of the Most High.
So the children of the flesh are not the children of the Most High. Naturally, right? You're more carnal. You're not the child of the Most High. Go ahead.
But the children of the promise are counted for the seed.
But notice, the children of the promise, what did we just say the promises were to a couple of verses up? Israelites. To whom pertaineth the promises. But the children of the promise, Israelites, are counted for the seed. Let's go to Galatians 4:22. Okay, how am I looking? Do I need to shut it, or I got more time? I'm going to take that as more time.
You sleep.
Yes, sir. Okay. Galatians, I'm sorry.
15 minutes.
15? All right. So I can wrap this and get into the next one. I'll just shorten it a bit.
Galatians 4:22.
4. Yeah, 4 and 22.
Right.
All right, Galatians chapter 4 and verse. Damn, I keep turning past it. 22. Okay, I'm there now. Really quick, Galatians chapter 4, verse 22, and we're going to read to 31.
This is the book of Galatians chapter 4, verse 22.
Go ahead.
For it is written.
Oh, and what we're doing is going to the precept for the Romans 9 and 4, and then showing that it's Israel that's always been talked about, and Abraham and so on. Go ahead.
22 from top. For it is written that Abraham had two sons.
So now they were saying, oh, we're of Abraham. So now Abraham has two sons. Go ahead.
One by a bondmaid.
One by a bondmaid, right, which was the Egyptian woman. Go ahead.
The other by a free woman.
The other by a free woman. She wasn't in bondage. Go ahead.
Verse 23.
Uh-huh.
But he who was of the bondwoman was born after the flesh.
This is Ishmael. But he who was of the bondwoman was born after the flesh, right? The fleshly one is not counted for the seed. That is Ishmael. Go ahead.
But he of the free woman was by promise.
Go ahead.
Verse 24. Which thing are an allegory.
So he's saying the bond and the free is an allegory. Go ahead.
For these are the two covenants.
So it was an actual event, but it's an allegory for two covenants, right? One is the law and one is the faith, right? The new covenant that's coming in. It's an allegory. Go ahead.
The one from Mount Sinai, which genereth to bondage, which is Hagar,
which is Agar, right? So the one from Mount Sinai. Mount Sinai is actually in Saudi Arabia. Right. Go ahead.
Verse 25.
I'm sorry. Read that again. Which gendereth to bondage.
The one from Mount Sinai, which genereth to bondage,
right?
Which,
so go ahead. I'm sorry.
Which is Agar.
So which gendereth to bondage, meaning if you are only of the law, that keeps you in bondage. Only of the law, right? Because that's why Yahweh came to set you free. Because you only believed in the law. That's why these Pharisees and Sadducees couldn't, they wanted to kill him. They were under bondage, right? They were under bondage to the law. When he came, they couldn't even read the prophecies that were in the law about him. They were in bondage, mentally, spiritually, so on and so forth. Go ahead.
Verse 25. For this Agar is Mount Sinai in Arabia,
Saudi Arabia. Go ahead.
And Nazareth to Jerusalem, which now is and is in bondage with her children.
And we are in bondage, are we not? Go ahead.
Verse 26. But Jerusalem, which is above, is free.
Right, go ahead.
Which is the mother of us all.
Go ahead.
Verse 27. For it is written, rejoice, thou barren that bears not.
Right, go ahead. So this is going on into like with the Sarah, what happened? She was barren. Go ahead.
Break forth and cry, thou that travailest not.
That doesn't seem like you have any children. Go ahead.
For the desolate have many more children than she which have an husband.
So the desolate will have many more children than she that has a husband. So it's almost like saying, you who have the world and everything with you, the one who has nothing will have more than you. Go ahead.
Verse 28. Now we, brethren, and Isaac are the children of the promise.
So notice, we are the children of the promise. Go ahead.
Verse 29. But as then he that was born after the flesh persecuted him that was born after the spirit.
So the same thing, Ishmael is the same thing what happened with Esau. You persecute the ones of the spirit. Go ahead.
Even so it is now. Verse 30. Nevertheless, what saith the scriptures? Cast out the bondwoman and her son.
That's what happened with Hagar and the son. Cast them out. Right? Go ahead.
For the son of the bondwoman shall not be heir with the son of the free woman.
So heir has to do with heritage and receiving. It shall not be heir with the son of the free woman. You're going into Isaac now. Then you're going into Jacob and Esau. Same thing. You are not heir with us. You did not receive anything. Nothing needs to be restored to you. Nothing needs to be reconciled or anything else like that. Can go into that in more detail, but we just wanted to give you a gist of what was going on in the New Testament, that it is Israelites. But I'm going to skip now, and I'm going to go to and finish this up. I'll chop it up really quick. A question: where is the tribe of Dan? I'm not going to go into a specific location, but what happened to him? Why? I'm not going to go that deep, but we will. We'll do a part 2. Why isn't he mentioned? So let's go to Revelation 7. And for those of you that don't know the word, I'm going to go into pseudepigrapha, which means, all right, you just really quick, you Israelites who are out there. It's an ugly word to you. It's pseudepigrapha. So it's a book that's not in this book. I'm going to go somewhere else, and it's about Dan. So you're not worried. Dan is not in there, so don't worry about it. So you don't even have to believe it if you don't want to, but just for confirmation purposes. Are we good? Revelation chapter 7, and we're going to start from. I'm sorry, let me get there with you. Revelation 7, we're going to start from verse 4. Yeah, let's start from verse 4.
This is the book of Revelation, chapter 7, verse 4.
Go ahead.
And I heard a number of them which were sealed, and there were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel. Verse 5. Of the tribe of Judah were sealed 12,000.
Judah.
Of the tribe of Reuben were sealed 12,000.
Reuben.
Of the tribe of Gad were sealed 12,000.
Go ahead.
Of the tribe of Asher were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Naphtali were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Manasseh was sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Simeon was sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Levi were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Issachar were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Zebulun was sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Joseph were sealed 12,000. of the tribe of Benjamin were sealed 12,000.
12 tribes. Where is Dan? Why isn't Dan in this mix? So now, in order to know why Dan isn't there, we have to go back to the Old Testament. So let's go to Genesis chapter 30 and verse 1. We'll read 1 to 6. Okay. I could shorten it up. Let me see. Hold on. Okay, yeah. Genesis chapter 30, verses 1 to 6.
This is the book of Genesis chapter 30, verse 1. And when Rachel saw that she bare Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister and said unto Jacob, give me children, or else I die.
So it looks like she just came out of nowhere saying to Jacob, look, give me children or else I die. But what is it saying? This is showing that they have been trying to have children for quite some time. The reason I'm bringing this up is because what happens, even with myself, when we read, we don't take in consideration the time frame between one verse and the next. Because just because the verse is next doesn't mean it happened that moment. It could be a whole slew of time. Go ahead.
Verse 2. And Jacob's anger was kindled against Rachel, and he said, am I in the Most High stead, who have withheld from thee the fruit of the womb?
He was like, do I look like God? Do I look like I'm stopping you from having kids? Right, go ahead.
Verse 3. And she said, behold, my maid Bilhah, go in unto her, and she shall bear upon my knees, that I may also have children by her.
So obviously she truly wanted a child. When you wanted to like, hey, didn't have a kid by her, she truly wanted a child. Go ahead.
Verse 4. And she gave him Bilhah, her handmaid to wife, and Jacob went in unto her.
So we know what that means. Go ahead.
And Bilhah conceived and bare Jacob a son.
So like I just said in the first verse, when she said, give me a kid before I die, look at what she said. And gave him the handmaid for a wife, and Bilhah conceived. That was not 2 seconds. So you're literally looking at, and between verse 4 and 5, 9 months. So don't assume, oh, and Noah had these, and then all of a sudden he had, no. You don't know how much time passed. That one verse is 9 months time.
Right.
So you have to pay attention. Go ahead.
Verse 6. And Rachel said, the Most High have judged me, and have also heard my voice,
right,
and have given me a son. Therefore called she his name Dan.
So the Most High has judged me, because Dan will be a judge, and also heard my voice, and have given me a son. Therefore she called his name Dan. So let's go to Genesis 49. And 49 and verse 16. And we're going to read verse 16 and verse 17.
This is the book of Genesis, chapter 49, verse 16. Dan shall judge his people.
Right. So notice he said, the Most High heard me, right? And he judged. Go ahead.
As one of the tribes of Israel.
As one of the tribes of Israel. Go ahead.
Verse 17. Dan shall be a serpent by the way, an adder in the path, that biteth the horse's heel, heels, so that his rider shall fall backward.
So Dan shall be a serpent by the way, an adder in the path, that biteth the horse's heel. So have you ever seen how a horse reacts when it sees a serpent? It starts bucking and jumping around, and the rider, though, who's riding the serpent, gets thrown off, and he will bite the horse's heel so that his rider shall fall backwards. So something Dan is going to do is going to cause the rider or the other people to fall, right? Go ahead. So a serpent and an adder in the path, which means he's dangerous, essentially, right? So let's go to really quick. Let's go back real quick. Let me find this really fast. 32, is that what I want? No, that's not. Don't even worry about it. Don't even follow and go to that. Let's go to, let me skip down. Let's go to Exodus chapter 35. And we're going to go to verses 34 and 35. Actually, start at start at 31.
This is the book of Genesis, chapter 35. Salaka. This is the book of Exodus, chapter 35, verse 31.
Right. So right now he's dealing with Bezaleel, the son of Uri, and the son of Hur, and the tribe of Judah, and they were taught how to work in certain fields. Go ahead, verse 31.
And he have filled him with the spirit of the Most High,
right,
in wisdom, in understanding, and in knowledge, and in all manner of workmanship.
Key in workmanship. Go ahead.
Verse 32. And to advise curious, and to devise curious works,
right,
to work in gold and in silver and in brass,
right.
Verse 33. And in cutting of stones to set them, and in carving of wood to make any manner of cunning work.
So he's like a what do you call it? Like an engraver, embroidery, works with jewelry. Go ahead.
Verse 34. And he have put in his heart that he may teach both he and Aholiab, the son of Ahisamach, of the tribe of Dan.
Go ahead. Of the tribe of Dan. Go ahead. 35.
Verse 35. Them have he filled with wisdom of heart to work all manner of work of the engraver and of the cunning workman and of the embroiderer in blue and in purple, in scarlet and in fine linen, and of the weaver, even of them that do any work, and of those that devise cunning work.
So he was taught to engrave, to make stones and all these other things. So he was taught this art, right? So let's go to really quick 38 and 23. We're going to confirm what we just read, 38 and 23.
So look, I ain't trying to be rude, but if you go back to 35, it tell you the colors of, in the order of the Mashiach, Yashaiyah colors.
I didn't get that.
Hold it. Save that for later. Hold up. But yeah, 35 is what he's talking about. All right. So yeah, 38 and 23.
This is the book of Exodus, chapter 38, verse 23.
Go ahead.
And with him was Aholiab, the son of
Ahisamach.
Of the tribe of Dan, an engraver, and a cunning workman, and an embroiderer in blue,
right,
and in purple, and in scarlet, and fine linen.
And in fine linen, right? So now let's go to 1 Kings. So I want to speed this up. We're going to get to the point because there's not a lot about Dan. So let's go to 1 Kings chapter 12. And we're going to start from verse 25. Already the kingdom is split with Jeroboam and Rehoboam, with the northern and southern. So we're going to go into that really quick. From 1 Kings 12, 25 to 33.
This is the book of 1 Kings chapter 12, verse 25.
Go ahead.
Then Jeroboam built Shechem in Mount Ephraim and dwelt therein, and went out from hence and built Penuel. Verse 26. And Jeroboam said in his heart, now shall the kingdom return to the house of David.
Right, go ahead.
Verse
so
20,
this is like, the 3 times in the years you have to meet in front of the Most High. So he's trying to get everybody to return to the house of David. Go ahead.
Verse 27. If this people go up to do sacrifice in the house of the Most High at Jerusalem, then shall the heart of this people turn again unto their Lord, even unto Rehoboam, the king of Judah, and they shall kill me, and go again to Rehoboam, the king of Judah.
So look how wicked that thought is. He said, if this people go up to do sacrifice in the house of Yahweh at Jerusalem, then shall the heart of this people turn again to their Lord. So this king is like, yo, I got to stop them from worshiping the Most High, right? Even unto Rehoboam, king of Judah. And then they shall kill me and go again to Rehoboam, king of Judah. Go ahead, 28.
Verse 28. Whereupon the king took counsel and made 2 calves of gold.
And did what?
And made 2 calves of gold.
Go ahead.
And said unto them, it is too much for you to go up to Jerusalem.
She's like, why are you going to go all the way to Jerusalem when I can make you 2 calves of gold here? So not only is he doing something wicked, he's doing something because he knows in their spirit, they didn't fully let go of what they had in Egypt. Right. So it's like, you know what? Go ahead. I'm going to make these 2 pieces of gold. There's 2 calves of gold. Go ahead.
Behold, thy gods are, O Israel.
Well, hold up. You skip 2 calves of gold and said unto them.
And said unto them, it is too much for you to go up to Jerusalem. Behold, thy powers, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt.
I have to say, that's a wicked nigga, boy. So yeah, look at your 2 gods that brought you out of Egypt. That is a wicked man. Go ahead.
Verse 29. And he set the one in Bethel.
He set one in Bethel. Where did he put the other one?
And the other put he in Dan.
In Dan. So Dan was taught to be an engraver, to cut stones and all this other stuff. And he took 2 statues, put one in Bethel and put one in Dan, of all places. Go ahead.
Verse 30. And this thing became a sin.
And it became a sin. Go ahead.
For the people went to worship before the one, even unto Dan.
So they went into the household, to the land of Dan, to do this worship. Go ahead.
Verse 31. And he made an house of high places and made priests of the lowest of the people.
So he made a house of high places, kind of like the Edomites do now with the big churches and all these things. And he made priests of the lowest people. Not saying that this was going on there, but who does it have now? You got homosexuals up there running the church. You got criminals up there stealing the people's money. And unfortunately, you got sisters in it that are not supposed to be leading the congregation. So he made priests of the lowest people. Go ahead. Made a high place, but made priests of the lowest people. Go ahead.
Which were not of the sons of Levi.
So he couldn't even use the Levites that were there. He was like, nah, let me just get other people to do this. Let me fully go against the Most High. Go ahead.
Verse 32. And Jeroboam ordained a feast.
So after he did all that, then he ordained a feast. So he's trying to be God on earth. Go ahead.
In the 8th month, on the 15th day of the month, like unto the feast that is in Judah.
Right.
And he offered upon the altar. So did he in Bethel.
Right.
Sacrificing unto calves, unto the calves that he had made. And he placed in Bethel the priests of the high places which he had made. Verse 33. So he offered upon the altar which he had made in Bethel the 15th day of the 8th month, even in the month which he had devised of his own heart, and ordained a feast unto the children of Israel.
Right.
And he offered upon the altar and burnt offering.
Right. Okay, so really quick, you can write this down. In Numbers 2, 25 to 31, this is a preparation for a war that's going to take place. Just to speak for purposes of time. War. Numbers 7, 66 to 71 is when offerings are being made. Numbers 10, 25. This is going from when they went from Sinai to Paran, or Sinai to Paran, rather. And let's go to Numbers 26 and verse 42. Oh, that's where you're at? There you go. Oh, praise. I ain't there yet. Numbers 26, 42. I'm going to read 43.
This is the book of Numbers, chapter 26, verse 42. These are the sons of Dan after their families.
So this is a second census that was taken. Go ahead.
Of Shuham, the family of the Shudamites. These are the families of Dan after their families.
Right, go ahead.
Verse 43. All the families of the Shudamites, according to those that were numbered of them, were 3,400.
So 600 and what is it? 64,400, something like that. There's a lot of there was a lot of people of Dan, right? So now, really quick, we're going to get to the meat of this. So, right, so we're dealing with war and all these other things. Let's go to the book of Joshua, so I can wrap this up and give you the point. Because trust me, there's not a lot of scriptures on Dan. Joshua chapter 19. And we're going to go verses 40 to 48. How much time I got left? 10 minutes. 10, how long? 10 minutes? Okay. Yeah, Joshua chapter 19, verse 40 to 48. Actually, so this is dealing with Dan and getting land. I hope I didn't skip part of it because I might have skipped the verse. What did I miss? I missed something. I'll find it. Salakio on that, audience. But Dan also stole land from other for the Israelites, for other people from Zidon. He stole land because he didn't have enough land. So hopefully that comes to mind as we read. But really quick, let's go to 40 and then jump down to 47 and 48. Joshua 19, yeah. Go to 40.
This is the book of Joshua, chapter 19, verse 40. And in the seventh lot came out from the tribe of the children of Dan according to their families.
So that's from 41 to 46. Go ahead, verse 47.
Verse 47. Verse 47. And the coast of the children of Dan went out too little for them.
Right.
Therefore, the children of Dan went up to fight against Livshem and took it and smote it.
Oh, there you go.
With the edge of the sword.
Right.
And possessed it and dwelt therein.
Right. So they took land from others and possessed because they felt they didn't have enough land. So what the Most High gave you wasn't enough. So I'm going to go take some land and I'm going to take it with the sword. Go ahead.
And called Leshem Dan after the name of Dan, their father.
So not only did you take it, now it's called Dan. Go ahead.
Verse 48. This is the inheritance of the tribe of the children of Dan according to their families. These cities with their villages.
So again, so in the midst of everybody getting their lot of land, Dan was like, I'm gonna need that too. And went and took it from other people. So go ahead. So we're gonna go to Judges chapter 1, verse 18. I'm sorry, chapter 18, verses 1. That's a lot to read. So we got to chop this up. Judges chapter 18. And then we're just going to jump. Okay. Go ahead. Start 1 and go to 3.
This is the book of Judges, chapter 18, verse 1. In those days, there was no king in Israel.
Right.
And in those days, the tribe of the Danites sought them an inheritance to dwell in.
So you notice they already had land that they took, but you know what? We need some place to live. Go ahead.
For unto that day, all their inheritance had not fallen onto them among the tribe of Israel.
So they didn't get all the land they were supposed to get. So it was like, so you know what? Let's go get some land. Go ahead.
Verse 2. And the children of Dan sent of their family 5 men from their coast, men of valor, from Zorah and from Eshtaol, to spy out the land and to search it.
Right.
And they said unto them, Go, search the land. Who when they came to the Mount Ephraim, to the house of Mecca, they lodged there. Verse 3. When they were by the house of Micah, they knew the voice of the young man, the Levite, and they turned in hither and said unto him, Who brought thee hither?
So they're in the land of Micah, and they're saying to the Levite, how did you get here? Go ahead.
And what mayest thou in this place? And what hast thou here?
So, like, how did you get in this place, and what do you have while you're here? Go ahead.
Verse 4. And he said unto them, thus and thus,
You know, this and that.
dealeth Micah with me,
Uh-huh.
and have heard me, and I am his priest.
So Micah hired him, the Levite, to be his priest. Go ahead.
Verse 5. And they said,
Sorry, can you? I'm lost.
Oh, what do you need, the verse?
Yeah.
Okay, we're up to, all right, so we went from 3, and we found the Levite, and they're asking him, how did you get here? What do you have here? What belongs to you?
So I'm sorry. What chapter is that?
Oh, I'm sorry, Judges 18.
chapter 18.
18.
Yep.
Oh, here's someplace.
So we're up to verse,
You're in verse 5.
5. You can start 5 over from the beginning.
Verse 5. And they said unto him, ask counsel, we pray thee, of the Most High, that we may know whether our way which we go shall be prosperous.
So they're searching out the land of fellow people. They already stole land before, and they're asking Levite, ask the Most High if what we're doing is going to be prosperous, if we can get something out of this. Right? Go ahead.
Verse 6. And the priest said unto them, go in peace before the Most High is your way wherein ye go.
Go ahead. Read 7.
Verse 7. Then the 5 men departed and came to Laish, and saw the people that were therein, how they dwelt careless after the manner of the Zidonians, quiet and secure.
So kind of how people now, they careless. It's like everything's good. We chilling. And them like, yeah, after the people's Zidonians, like, okay, go ahead.
And there was no magistrate in the land.
There was no real laws, no judges, no police. Go ahead.
That might put them to shame in anything.
So they could do whatever they want now. Like kind of how Edomites are here. They go around, now we're good, we're secure, everything's fine. Nobody's going to put us in our place. Go ahead.
And they were far from the Zidonians and had no business with any man.
Right. All right. So hold on. Let me skip down. And then went, okay. Yeah, they answered the 5 men. Okay, go to 14. Yeah, and read the 17.
This is the book of Judges, chapter 18, verse 14.
Stay with me, folks out there. We're almost done. Go ahead.
Then answered the 5 men that went to spy out the country of Lash, and said unto their brethren, do ye know that there is in these houses an ephod, and a teraphim, and a graven image, and a molten image? Now therefore consider what ye have to do.
Well, there's some nice things here. Go ahead.
Verse 15. And they turned hitherward and came to the house of the young man, the Levite.
Right. So they came to the house of the young man, the Levite. Go ahead.
Even unto the house of Micah, and saluted him.
So, they come in to take stuff, and they were like, hey, what's going on, Micah? Go ahead.
Verse 16. And the 600 men appointed with their weapons of war, which were of the children of Dan, stood by the entrance of the gate.
So they're in there chilling, talking, hey, Micah, what's going on? You got some nice stuff in here. Meanwhile, the Danites got 600 men waiting outside the gate with weapons. Go ahead.
Verse 17. And the 5 men that went to spy out the land went up and came in hither, and took the graven image. So
they stole something that was already wicked. They stole a graven image. Go ahead.
And the ephod.
And the ephod.
And the teraphim. And the molten image.
So you stole that, and you stole idols. Go ahead.
And the priest stood in the entering of the gate with the 600 men that were appointed with the weapons of war.
The priest shouldn't have went with them, but at the same time, 600 men, he might have felt he had no choice but to go with them. Go ahead.
Verse 18. And these went into Micah's house and fetched the graven image, the ephod, and the teraphim, and the molten image. Then said the priest unto them, what do ye?
You're like, yo, what did you do? You're like, I was just living here, and Micah put me up, and you stole everything. Yo, what did you do? Listen to how, forgive me, how much Dan are like niggas. Listen to how they speak. Listen to how they speak to the priest. Go ahead.
Verse 19. And they said unto him, hold thy peace, lay thy hands upon thy mouth, and go with us.
Stop talking and shut up and roll with us. Go ahead.
And be to us a father and a priest.
So we just robbed your people, got you out of there. Keep quiet, roll with us. Oh, and be to us like a father and a priest. Go ahead.
Is it better for thee to be a priest unto the house of one man, or that thou be a priest unto a tribe and a family in Israel?
So he's like, yo, is it better for you to be a priest in one house and all of that? Or be better to be a priest of Israelites? And now he was like, you know what? Read verse 20.
Verse 20, and the priest's heart was glad.
He sold out real quick, like, yo, you right, man. I could be a priest to everybody. So we're going to stop there. So just to see, so Dan not only was stealing land, gold, images, idolatry, spiritual fornication. Now we're going to go into exactly what happened. Oh, really quick before we do that, let's go to another war, Judges 5, 16 and 17. So we're going to see the first wrong thing Dan did. Judges 5, 16 and 7. Well, not the first wrong thing. One of many things that he did. So this is about, this goes into Deborah and Barak. And this is a fighting that's been going on, essentially like a war. And then we're just going to go with verses 16 and 17, Judges chapter 5, 16 and 17, because we're only going to deal essentially with where Dan comes in at.
This is the book of Judges chapter 5, verse 16.
Again, we're dealing with the story of Deborah and Barak. Go ahead.
You said 15?
16 and 17. Yeah.
Verse 16.
Actually, you can read 15.
Verse 15. And the princes of Issachar were with Deborah, even Issachar, and also Barak. And he went on foot into the valley.
So he was ready for war. He went on foot into the valley. Go ahead.
For the division of Reuben, there were great thought of heart.
So Reuben, although he was in a fight, had to think about it. Do I really want to get down with this? So there was thoughts of heart. He was contemplating. Go ahead.
Verse 16. Why abidest thou among the sheepfold to hear the bleating of the flock?
So he's like, why you hanging back? Come up, get in this way. Would you stuck around and hear the people screaming back? That's what he's saying. You hear the bleating of flocks? Go ahead.
For the division of Reuben, there were great searching of heart.
It was like, damn, do we really want to get down with this war? It looks tough. But go to verse 17.
Verse 17. Gilead abode beyond Jordan,
right?
And why did Dan remain in ships?
Why did Dan remain? Dan didn't even get out the boat. All your brothers are going into this war. Dan didn't even get out the boat. Dan was at the sea like, about to be rough for y'all out there, just watching. This is Dan. He dealt treacherously with his brothers, right? So you can start to see that serpent come out, right? To bite the horse's hoof, right? The adder in the way, right? So now he did that. He stole land that wasn't his. He stole false idols. He did all of these things. And now, so what is the judgment for Dan? Let's go to Amos. You there already?
Not yet.
Okay. Skip that. Hosea. What's Hosea? Slot. Amos. We're going to go to Amos chapter 8. And we're going to start from verse 11. So good. Amos chapter 8 and verse 11. So we're going to be familiar with this, but it's how it finishes that we're going to understand something. Go ahead.
This is the book of Amos chapter 8 verse 11. Behold, the days come, saith the Most High Power, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but of hearing the word of the Most High.
But of hearing the words of the Most High. So that famine is going to come into the land, because just like we read early, like we heard in the class, the Most High turned his face. That's how that famine of the word comes, because I'm not going to be presenting to you this word anymore. In today's day, you have people out there, but eventually we're not going to be able to go in those streets. Right. Eventually they're going to shut down the internet. They're not going to allow us to speak. So that famine is going to come again. Go ahead.
Verse 12. And they shall wander from sea to sea, and from the north even to the east. They shall run to and fro to seek the word of the Most High.
So you're going to go all over the place trying to seek the word of the Most High. Go ahead.
And shall not find it. Verse 13. In that day shall the fair virgins and young men faint for thirst.
Right? So they faint for thirst. So like that water, that living life that comes out of this word, you're going to faint for thirst. Literally and spiritually. Right? Go ahead.
Verse 14. They that swear by the sin of Samaria and say, thy power, O Dan, liveth. And
so notice this. They that swear by the sin of Samaria, which was idolatry, right? They swear by the idolatry, which is what Dan did also. Go ahead. Thy power.
And the manner.
Well, hold up. Thy power. Read that again. Thy God.
Thy power, O Dan, liveth.
So they're saying your power, O Dan, liveth. Go ahead.
And the manner of Bathsheba liveth, even they shall fall and never rise up again.
So Dan, it was said, they shall fall and never rise up again. So when you go to Revelation 7 and you read that, Dan is not there. He shall never rise again. That doesn't mean that Danites may not get in the kingdom, because I'm sure there's Danites scattered also. Right. But you have no place in it. Now you're not saying, I can't say you would be servants or anything like that, but now you're amongst the people now. Whereas before you had a place, you lost it. So it was said, thy God, thy power, O Dan, liveth, and the manner of Beersheba liveth. Even they shall fall and never rise again. It was decreed that Dan shall not rise again. So really quick to complete that, let's go to Genesis 49 again. This time we're going to read 16 to 18. I really could have just ran to that one verse that whole time, but I wanted to give you a little bit of meat because there's not a lot on Dan. So Genesis 49, this time we're going to read from 16 to 18.
This is the book of Genesis, chapter 49, verse 16. Dan should judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel.
So notice, even in the wording, as one of the tribes of Israel, because he won't be eventually, right? Go ahead.
Verse 17. Dan should be a serpent by the way.
Was he not into idolatry? His people went and stole land that didn't belong to them and stole idols from others. Go ahead.
And adder in the path,
right,
that biteth the horse heels, so that his rider shall fall backward.
So with the institution of those idols, and I would even go as far as to say it was probably the Danites that helped make that calf when Moses went up to the mountain, because they were already taught in the art of how to do it, right? So it said, bite the horse's heel so that his rider should fall. So presenting these things in front of your brethren, as they're riding going forward, you bite the heel and they fall backwards to the way they were before, back into idolatry. Go ahead.
Verse 18.
Listen to verse 18.
I have waited for thy salvation, O Most High.
So Dan was told he shall never rise again, but the wording behind it, I have waited for thy salvation, O Yahweh. So Dan is also waiting for salvation, but he has no place in the kingdom as his brethren do. So when you want to know why Dan is missing, look at the history of what he did and look at the prophecy of what he would be, and then listen to the decree that the Most High made. That is why Dan is missing, because he shall never arise again. His people are somewhere on this earth, and they may not even know if they're of the tribe of Dan,
right,
but they are not included in the tribes of Israel.
And which one, what chapter and verse was that where it said he would never rise again?
That was 8 and 14. Amos,
yeah.
8 and 14. So I hope that y'all got some. How much time I got? Yo, I'm gonna say get it done. 5 minutes? 3 to 5 minutes. Let's see what I can bust out for y'all real quick. Side note, this is for the other Israelites that Ezra mentions with those books that not everybody's supposed to read. I got something for y'all real quick. My people on the low. Yeah, I'm scared of the other Israelites, so I don't talk loud. Let me see. Let me pull this book up for y'all real quick. Wrong book. And this is about Dan. So since Dan didn't make it, you should accept it. Well, you might make it anyway. Okay, Salakia. Let me get that book real quick. 3 to 5 minutes. Salakia, y'all. I'm slowing down because I'm rushing. Those books. I'm going to read it, and I'm going to read it quick. Okay, so this is the testament of Dan. Testament of Dan. All right, chapter 1. The seventh son of Jacob and Bilhah, the jealous one. He counsels against anger, saying that it giveth peculiar vision. This is a notable thesis on anger. The copy of Dan's word, let's go to right into verse 2. For he called together his family and said, hearken to my words, ye sons of Dan, and give heed to the words of your father. I have proved in my heart and in my whole life that truth with just dealing is good and well-pleasing to Yahweh, and that lying and anger are evil, because they teach man all wickedness. I confess therefore this day to you, my children, that in my heart I resolved on the death of Joseph, my brother, the true good man. And I rejoice that he was sold, because his father loved him more than us. For the spirit of jealousy and vainglory said to me, thou thyself also art his son. And one of the spirits of Beliar stirred me up, saying, take this sword and with it slay Joseph, so that thy father will love thee when he is dead. Now this is the spirit of anger that persuaded me to crush Joseph as a leopard crushes the kid. But the power of my fathers did not suffer him to fall into my hand, so that I should find him alone and slay him, and cause a second tribe to be destroyed in Israel, outside of himself. And now, my children, behold, I am dying, and I tell you the truth, that unless you keep yourselves from the spirit of lying and of anger, and love truth and long suffering, you shall perish. For anger is blindness, and does not suffer one to see the face of any man with truth. For though it be a father or a mother, he behaveth toward them as enemies. Though it be a brother, he knoweth him not. Though it be a prophet of the Most High, he disobeyeth him. Though a righteous man, he regardeth him not. Though a friend, he doth not acknowledge him. For the spirit of anger encompasseth him with the net of deceit, and blindness his eyes through lying darkeneth his mind, and giveth him his own peculiar vision. And wherewith encompasseth eyes? With the hatred of heart, so as to be envious of his brother. For anger is an evil thing, my children, for it troubleth even the soul itself. And the body of the angry man maketh its own, and over his soul getteth the mastery. And it bestoweth upon the body power, that it may work all iniquity. So in other words, when you get angry, it convinces you to do what you were doing, and it grants you power, because you get stronger when you're angry. That's that adrenaline, right? Verse 17, and when the body does all these things, the soul justifieth what is done, since it seeth not aright. So you justify yourself in your anger, since you can't see right, right? Therefore, he that is wrathful, if he be a mighty man, hath threefold power in his anger. One by the help of his servants, and a second by wealth, whereby he persuadeth and overcometh wrongfully. And thirdly, having his own natural power, he worketh evil thereby. And through and though the wrathful man be weak, yet he hath power twofold of that which is by nature. For wrath ever aideth such in lawlessness. So it's saying wrath and anger aids you in your sins. The spirit goes always with the lying at the right hand of Satan, that with cruelty and lying works may be wrought. Understand ye therefore the power of wrath, that it is vain. For it first of all giveth provocation by word, then by deeds it strengtheneth him who is angry, and with sharp losses disturbeth his mind, and so stirreth up with great wrath his soul. Therefore, when anyone speaketh against you, key, like we said earlier when we were talking about how to be in the streets, therefore, when anyone speaketh against you, be not ye moved to anger. And if a man praiseth you as holy men, be not uplifted, be not moved either to delight or to discuss. For it pleaseth the hearing, and so maketh the mind keen to perceive the grounds for provocation. And then being enraged, he thinketh that he is justly angry. So you hear something and you try to justify your anger. If ye fall into any loss or ruin, my children, be not afflicted. For this very spirit maketh a man desire that which is perishable, in order that he may be enraged through affliction. So when you fall into something and loss and ruin, that spirit that overcomes you tends to make you angry and want you to go and take, and you justify yourself because you lost. And if ye suffer loss voluntarily or involuntarily, be not vexed. For from vexation ariseth wrath and lying. Moreover, a twofold mischief is wrath with lying, and they assist one another in order to disturb the heart. And when the soul is continually disturbed, the Most High departeth from it, and Beliar ruleth over it. He gave you what happened to himself, and he's trying to tell you to stop it from happening to you. So this is what happened to Dan, and this is part of his confession, pseudepigrapha, as he was dying. When that and say shalom.
Shalom.
Go ahead, bro.
Oh, praise.
Oh, you got another?
For the strangers, maybe we're talking about strangers.
Mm-hmm.
Laughing with the stranger.
Okay. Yeah, that would have been good. Yeah, that
I
was
just trying to find it, like, it's in Ephesians. I ain't typing in my phone.
They had a couple more that was coming, but they weren't hitting fast enough.
Good class.